Welcome to today's audio lecture on using LinkedIn effectively. More specifically, we'll discuss the following topics. First, we'll discuss the basics of LinkedIn, what it is, why you should use it, and how recruiters use it. Next, we'll talk about how to get started on your LinkedIn profile if you don't have one, or your new LinkedIn profile if you're looking to update yours. Third, we'll talk about how to choose the right headshot, the right image for your profile. Fourth, we'll talk about writing persuasive headlines, that text at the top of your profile. And finally, we'll talk about how you can craft compelling summaries, overviews of your identity and accomplishments as a professional. Let's begin by discussing the basics of LinkedIn. If you're not already using LinkedIn, you should. It's truly an unparalleled tool for organizing and visualizing your professional network. Every day we're meeting new people, and oftentimes it's hard to keep track of these individuals. LinkedIn helps us remember not only who we know, but how they're connected to other people we know, and that's an indispensable asset in the world of work. You should also use LinkedIn because it's recruiters' preferred tool. In fact, more than 85% of HR professionals use LinkedIn when recruiting new hires. And even if you're happy at your current job, you're not planning to go anywhere soon, it's still nice to be on recruiters' radar. Not just because that interest is flattering, but also because sometimes that interest from recruiters, from headhunters, can help you move forward at your current employer. But to use LinkedIn most effectively, we first have to know how recruiters use the tool. Typically, they begin their search with keywords, skills, and job titles. These are their main and primary search criteria. They then narrow and refine their search using location and connections, looking at where you are and what individuals you're connected to. To use LinkedIn most effectively, to build your personal network and grab recruiters' attention, you should follow these 6 tips. First, you should adapt your profile to your professional goals. Second, you should use concise first-person language and a collegial tone in your profile. Third, you should link your claims to concrete results and benefits. Emphasize what you've done, what you can bring to the table. Fourth, you should connect viewers to examples of your work. Show, don't just tell. Fifth, you should update your profile and engage your connections regularly. This is a good tip for any social media engagement, but it's true too of LinkedIn. And finally, you should use keywords, not buzzwords, to improve search results. How can you identify these keywords? Well, the first thing that you should know is that keywords are nouns. They're not adjectives, they're not descriptors, they're not verbs, they're not actions. They're people, places, or things. You can identify these keywords by looking for distinctive nouns that appear in job ads for your field or in your peers' profiles. Keep an eye out for those distinctive nouns that seem to most effectively describe what is unique or special about your field or your specialization. These are the kinds of words that are likely to be keywords. Then, once you've identified these keywords, put them in your headline or summary sections. These are the locations where keywords are most effective and where recruiters or other users are most likely to find them. You can also enhance your LinkedIn profile by avoiding these common mistakes. First, you can avoid copying and pasting language from your resume directly into your profile. A LinkedIn profile is very different from a resume, and it should not use identical language. Second, you can avoid using third-person language to describe yourself. We sometimes see LinkedIn users doing this, but it's awkward, it's robotic. You should not do it yourself. Third, you should avoid writing long, dense paragraphs. Nobody wants to read long, dense paragraphs. Fourth, you should avoid supporting your claims with too much detail. Death by detail applies just as strongly in the world of LinkedIn as it does anywhere else. And finally, you should avoid using humor, which is difficult for readers to interpret in the context of a LinkedIn profile. Just be sincere. It's always the best policy in professional communication. All right, enough about the basics. Now let's talk about how you can get started on your LinkedIn profile if you do not have one, and how you can get started on your new LinkedIn profile if you do already have one. The first thing that you want to do to get started on your LinkedIn profile or your new LinkedIn profile is to ask yourself, what's my goal? What do I want my profile to achieve for me and for my career? For instance, do you want your profile to help you expand your personal network? Do you want to use it to enhance your professional reputation? Will it help you recruit talented candidates to your workplace? Will it help you look for a new position? Maybe it will help you achieve more than one of those goals. That's fine. The point is that you want to think long and hard about what you're trying to achieve with this profile and design your profile accordingly. Once you've identified your goal or goals, you next want to begin generating those all-important keywords. And one of the best ways to do this is to ask yourself, how do LinkedIn users describe either the work I already do or the work that I want to do? Asking yourself this question will give you great insight into how you can leverage those keywords to drive either colleagues, peers, or recruiters to your page and want to connect with you. Then finally, the last question that you want to ask yourself as you begin designing or redesigning your LinkedIn profile is this: how am I unique? What about me as a professional or individual sets me apart from all the other people in my company or my field or my area of specialization? Once you've answered these three questions, you can then go about the all-important but difficult work of crafting a profile that uses keywords to pursue your goals, but nevertheless differentiates you from your peers. You should aim, in other words, to create content that makes you legible to other LinkedIn users, but nevertheless preserves your uniqueness as an individual and a professional. Striking this balance is admittedly difficult, but it's also essential. By using keywords to make yourself identifiable, you'll give your peers and recruiters the tools they need to find you, to direct their attention to your profile. But by focusing on what makes you unique, you'll also make yourself stand out. You'll ensure that your profile doesn't look or feel cookie cutter to the people who see it. Okay, so having asked and answered those big, high-level, open-ended questions, we can now dive in to the nitty-gritty, beginning with how you can choose the right headshot for your profile. In general, you want to choose a flattering, high-resolution headshot that aligns with your goals and your personal brand. Don't feel obligated, for instance, to use the traditional headshot, a photo of you in business casual clothing against a blurred, typically outdoor background. You don't necessarily need to do that. To illustrate my point, I've included the headshots that my colleague Anthony Coman and I use in our LinkedIn profiles. Now, before I say anything more, I should note that Anthony and I have the exact same job. We work in the same department, we have the same title, we teach primarily the same classes. And yet, despite this, we have very different LinkedIn headshots. And that's because we are trying to achieve different goals and we have different personalities. My headshot, for instance, is designed to reflect the informal cultures of academia and journalism. Those are the audiences I'm primarily trying to connect with through my LinkedIn profile. As many of you know, I've dabbled in freelance journalism in the past, and I have a real passion for translating specialized scholarly information into accessible language for non-specialist readers. This profile is therefore designed to help enhance my reputation and my network amongst scholars whose work I'd like to help translate, and amongst journalists in whose medium I hope to work more extensively. My colleague Anthony, on the other hand, is looking to enhance his reputation as a business communications consultant. And so he's adopted the look, the feel, and the dress of most business people in his LinkedIn headshot. He's also trying to leverage the network associated with the University of Florida by including UF imagery in his LinkedIn profile. My larger point is this, that there's no right or wrong way to approach your headshot. You need to use the headshot that is right for you, your goals, and your personality. Now let's move on to how you can write persuasive headlines, that line or lines of text that appear at the top of your LinkedIn profile. When you're tackling this section of your profile, remember that your headline is more than just your job title. Ideally, your headline should not only describe your work, but it should also include keywords and, when possible, reflect the goal, the purpose that you're trying to achieve through your LinkedIn profile. My favorite formula for the LinkedIn headline is the following. It should begin with an accessible description of your work, not necessarily your job title, just a plain language description of what you actually do at your job. Then some linking words that connect to your greatest accomplishments or your greatest passion or your specialization in your current role. Some examples of this formula at work might include something like tax professional passionate about facilitating tomorrow's innovations through R&D, or marketing manager with 20 years experience building brands for Fortune 100 companies. Now, those headlines are obviously a bit long, but they also do a lot. They express a lot of information. And like with an email subject line, this is a piece of text that you can feel reasonably confident that the reader is actually going to engage with in its entirety. And so you should take advantage of that. Now, as with the headshot, there's no single right way to approach your headline. Like your headshot, you've got to connect your headline to your goal and to your personality. And so to illustrate how you can do that, I've once again included the topmost section of both my LinkedIn profile and my colleague Anthony's profile in this slide. And so you can see that while my headline locates my job in academia and connects that position to my interest in public-facing writing, Anthony, on the other hand, uses the language of consulting in his headline and focuses more narrowly on workplace communication. Both of these are totally valid headlines. They're just tailored to Anthony and my differing goals and personalities. Finally, let's talk about how you can craft compelling summaries. That body of text that appears at the top of your profile and provides a big picture overview of your identity and your qualifications as a professional. As you'll see, you can approach your summary in a wide variety of ways. But in general, you should top load essential content. And what I mean by that is that essential content should appear at the top of your summary. You should focus on the results of your work, and you should seek to motivate action. You should encourage your reader to do something, even if it's simply to connect with you on LinkedIn. Here's my summary. As you can see, I've top-loaded the most essential information. In that green text, I've identified what I do for a living. I've used plain language to describe my job. And I've also identified what I believe makes me unique as a professional. In the next section, I focus on results. I provide evidence to support some of the claims that I make in that first section. I highlight my experience as an educator, for instance, and I point to some of my publications where I've translated scholarly conclusions into accessible prose for non-specialist readers. And in that final section, I motivate action. I encourage readers to connect with me so that I can achieve my goals of expanding my professional network and broadcasting my expertise. Now, my summary is by no means the end-all and be-all of summaries. It's fine. It is a decent model if you choose to use it, but no matter what you do, you should limit your summary to 2,000 characters or fewer, you should avoid buzzwords, and you should replace modifiers with facts wherever possible. To provide examples of why this advice is so critical, I've included sample fictional LinkedIn summaries. In the summary on the left, you can see that the writer is relying heavily on buzzwords, adjectives, and adverbs to make their case. This is very jargony, and there's not a lot of facts, there's not a lot of results in this statement. In the summary on the right, on the other hand, the author has stripped out a lot of that jargon, they've used plainer, more accessible language, and they've backed up their claims with facts. As a result, the summary on the right is not only easier to read, it's far more convincing, it's far more persuasive. If you're feeling adventurous, you can also use your LinkedIn summary to tell a story. Take a look at this summary. It is definitely not for everyone. I myself could not pull off a summary in this style, and this style may not work for you either. But I put it up here to give you a sense of the range of options that are available to you, the kinds of adventurous approaches that you can take to your summary if it's appropriate for your personality and your goals. Finally, I would encourage you, when and where appropriate, to use your LinkedIn profile to tell viewers how you can help them. This summary, for instance, is a great example of what a summary focused on helping others can look like. Again, this may not work for everyone. Depending upon your goals and personality, this approach may not be a good fit, but for some of you, it will be perfect. And so I want to put it out there as a potential option. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of this audio lecture. As a reminder, you should use LinkedIn because it's a great tool for organizing and visualizing your professional network. And you should also use it because it is recruiters' preferred tool. To ensure that you have a strong profile, you should follow these 6 tips, and you should avoid these 5 common pitfalls. If you follow the tips from this lecture, you'll have an accessible, appealing LinkedIn profile that will help you achieve your goals and highlight what is special about you as a professional. Thanks for listening.